Government has advanced almost 6 billion cedis as coupon payment to domestic debt exchange program bondholders. There is more in the following report.
This is the latest payment that government has carried out this year after it concluded the domestic debt exchange program. The payments are going to persons and institutions that exchange their old bonds for new government papers. Joy Business understands that the payment was done just yesterday, August 21, 2024. This might be the third or fourth time this year that government has moved to settle the coupon payment for these new bondholders this year. We also understand that it's covered all the category of investors that are holding government bonds. However, there are some who are worried about the impact of this payment on the Ghana cedi going forward. This is because it could result in a sudden surge in dollar demand on the market. This is because some of these investors that want to hedge their investment against inflation may move to buy dollars, a development that could put some pressure on the Ghana cedi.
Now, on the back of this, let's have a discussion on this. Joining me right now on Zoom is economist Professor Lord Mensah. Welcome on the show, sir. Prof, what do you make of this development?
Well, government continuous payment of, restructured domestic debt is a good signal. In a way, it gives the market certain levels of confidence when it comes to the long-term, government bonds. But then we have to also look at how the other economic indicators are performing. If you are paying those bonds and it turns up that the confidence in the cedi is not that strong, these long-term bondholders being, rational investors will have alternative for their money. And the alternative, obviously, is going to be to fall on the dollar, if not possibly to go into real estate, market. So from where I sit, it's a good signal, but then government needs to work hard to ensure that, the economic indicators look good so that all those who are receiving their money will have confidence, in the economy. But then let's look at how, these monies are being paid and possibly its impact on the economy in general. Yes, I would say indeed that it is very tempting at this time to look at buying the dollar and hoarding it. But at least for some time now, there seems to be some kind of prospect as far as government dollar buffer is concerned. So from me, it's not something that investors should consider. But government should take advantage of this situation to move the market to medium term, because if you are able to pay your long-term debt, then obviously it gives the market signal that indeed if you move your demand for funds to long-term, then obviously you should be able to pay. And so they should take advantage of this and move away from the pressure that they have on the treasury bill market. And once they do that, this assurance of continuous payment, investors will be happy to invest in the medium term. But if government continues to hold up, treasury bill market as it is doing now, and then also be paying this, bondholders, they may end up, putting their money in treasury bills, if not the dollars.
Prof, some are also worried that this could lead a lot of money circulation and result in dollar demand spike on the market, and that could possibly affect the cedi. You share the same sentiment?
I don't believe that. There seems to be that kind of liquidity problem in the system. Every single penny that will fall through in the system will have something to do. So it's not like already people have money already, and as a result of that, having excess, they may, buy things beyond the prices that are supposed to be. But from where I sit, I think already money has been scarce for some time now. And so injecting, 6 billion into the economy through payment of debt and other things is a good signal. And remember, this debt, facilities, some of them have obligations. And the obligations have been held up for some time now. And so money coming back to, the bondholders will have a purpose. I mean, let me put it that way, will have a purpose.
Prof, finally, on the Ghana cedi, what should be done to sustain its current recovery going forward?
Well, I think as a country, we are on track, but then we've been messing up one way or the other. If you ask me, I would say Cocoa Board syndicated loan is one of the genuine monies you can have as far as all our dollar inflows is concerned in holding up the dollar, because it's monies that comes and then all the activities around it are in cedis. So it helps the central bank to hold up, dollar buffers. I've heard the director, or I don't know whether it's the MD, saying that this time they're not going for cocoa syndicated loan because probably the market is not right for them and investors may not be prepared, because the last time they went to the market, they attracted funds around 8%. And if you look at it carefully, this time around, it may be worse. And so that is why probably they're not going to the market. But, going forward, if we don't get this money, and if you look at the IMF inflows as well, and then looking at the dollar obligations that the government has, if we should resume, our debt service.
We'll try to bring...
We're going to have a... Hello?
All right, Prof. Please go ahead.
Yes, so it's likely we are likely to have a bit of shake-up on the exchange rate if we should.
All right, thank you very much, Professor Lord Mensah, who was speaking to us with regards to the current situation. Prof, we'll get back to you in a subsequent.
I think the line.
Yes. Now, we'll move on to another interesting developing story. Elon Musk's satellite internet firm, Starlink, is set to formally commence operations in Ghana by the end of this month. This is after Starlink met all necessary regulatory requirements. Judge Wiafe has more.
Authority in a statement maintained that Starlink is going ahead with its business because it has concluded negotiations for all the administrative and licensing procedures with the industry regulator. The firm would operate under the name SpaceX Starlink Ghana Limited. The National Communications Authority earlier this year approved Starlink's request to operate in Ghana. However, it couldn't start operations then because there were other requirements that it was supposed to fulfill first. Starlink has been described as having very high speed compared to other satellite-based internet providers. But this may not come cheap. Based on information obtained on its website, it could cost you about $600 to $2,500 for the Starlink equipment, depending on the service you sign up. Now, that is the initial cost, as you could also be budgeting for about $120 to as much as $5,000 when it comes to the monthly payment. That would also depend on the service you sign up.
Now, moving on, the National Petroleum Authority has revoked the licenses of 13 oil marketing companies. It follows the inability of the firms to settle debt owed industry regulators like the NPA, the Ghana Revenue Authority, and the Bulk Oil Storage and Transportation Company. These are monies that have collected in levies and margins and products sold but failed to remit to the appropriate institutions. Now let's get on Zoom and speak to the communications manager at the NPA, Mohammed Abdul Kudus. Good evening, welcome to Business Live. Now, should we be expecting more of such actions from the National Petroleum Authority on such actions, and what is being done now to recover such monies?
Thank you for having me. Yes, this has been an ongoing exercise. In fact, it has been reoccurring, depending on the assessment that is made about the OMCs within the space. There are certain mandatory requirements that they are supposed to fulfill that qualifies them to operate within the space. One has to do with the infrastructure requirement. There is supposed to be a minimum number that an OMC is supposed to have to really qualify to operate within the space. Then two has to do with the licenses that it's supposed to pay regularly. Then the issues about the taxes, margins, and levies that they collect. These 13 OMCs have had varied reasons for their revocation, but to put the reasons together for all of them has virtually been within these very categories that I've just enumerated. One has to do with the infrastructure deficit, as in the number of filling stations that they should have, the non-compliance when it comes to the license fees that they're supposed to be paying. Then, very importantly, the statutory margins and levies that they collect that they are supposed to account at the end of the period.
There are reports that there are some of the firms still circumventing the process. Has it gotten to your decks?
Oh, not that I'm aware of, but obviously the space is very big and the MPA might not be able to be at all of the places all of the time. And so if anybody has information that he or she would want to share, I think the MPA would be willing and ready to work with it. But our regional offices have been given the information and they are supposed to equally be on the watch out and report accordingly if they find any of these revoked OMCs still operating within the space. So as and when the report comes to our desk, we would act on that. But the information I have is that there is a total compliance as we speak.
Do you now agree, based on several calls by institutions and players in the industry, that it is high time the MPA start to review the licensing processes?
Oh, obviously, it has actually been a live operation for us at MPA here. It is not something that we just leave it without regular review of it. There will be modification of the requirements as we move along, and the environment as it is today actually accept the structure that we are operating within. As and when we feel that there's something that we need to do, we'll look at it again. If you followed, you realize that there's been a review in the mandatory distance between two filling stations, just as it were to make use of the times and be able to move along with the changing situation. So as and when we feel that there's a certain aspect of our route that we need to tweak, we will do that, because we ought to be mindful of the changing times and act to reflect same. So we are reviewing our processes, and we believe that the environment within which they are operating today is good enough, even though one would still have a challenge or two. Take, for example, the period within which they are supposed to take the levies margins and account for sale. I believe that somebody would have suggested that there should be an automated processes just at the point of collection by the marketer. The shares that are supposed to go to the statutory institutions would go to them immediately, but we do not have that environment to allow such a method to be exploited. But obviously, what we are doing today, we believe that it allows us to be able to keep a tap on them. And that is why we regularly come after them when we feel that you are not meeting the regulatory requirements of DOT. As and when we feel that we need to crack the whip, we would crack it. And you realize that this is not the first time. We've actually been doing this the last 2 years. We've been publishing the names of those that we've revoked their licenses.
Before I let go of you, what is the way forward on the current rift between the LPG marketers and the cylinder recirculation model?
For us at National Petroleum Authority, we've had an open-door policy with them. As and when they have an issue and they draw our attention to it, we get solutions to them. For now, I've heard some complaints in the media. They've not actually brought them to our attention. If you speak to them, they will tell you that right from 2017 to date, we've actually been carrying them along. And a lot of the things that we are doing today are positions that we had to shift because of the suggestions, the complaints, and concerns that they brought to our attention. So our responsibility is to create the enabling environment, ensure a fair playing field for all within the space, and to not, as it were, to appear to be doing the bidding of one out of the lot. Obviously not. So as and when they have anything genuine and they draw our attention, our doors are open to them and would sit down and look at it together.
We appreciate your time here on Business Live. We have more news and update for you right after this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The Securities and Exchange Commission has indicated that the regulatory guidelines are being developed to support new products such as cryptocurrency. The Director General of the Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete, noted that the advent of technological innovation calls for a robust regulation to safeguard the sustainability of the financial market. He spoke at the maiden ACI Ghana Financial Market Conference organized by the ACI Financial Markets Association.
Evolution of the global financial sector over the years has introduced risks and challenges which necessitate sustainable supervisory frameworks to ensure security, compliance, and consumer protection. Regulation remains key in balancing innovation with sustainability, though confidence on the domestic market is picking up after the domestic debt exchange program and a series of actions taken by the Bank of Ghana to ensure a sanitized system. Regulatory reforms will be needed to ensure a robust financial scene. Speaking at the maiden ACI Ghana Financial Market Conference, Director General of the Securities and Exchange Commission, Reverend Daniel Ogbamitete, announced that guidelines are being developed to cater for new products such as cryptocurrency.
We are also working on regulations that would support the introduction of new products into our markets. We recently launched the crowdfunding guidelines and the green bonds guidelines, and the team is on course with regulations on asset-backed securities, securities lending and borrowing, margin trading, market making, derivatives, digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, among others.
The head of financial markets at the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Zachary Mumuni, rehashed the central bank's commitment to clamp down on unethical practices by financial institutions and professionals to maintain a robust financial space.
These unethical practices undermine the progress made in financial markets. The bank remains vigilant and is prepared to impose stringent sanctions on those engaged in such practices.
Meanwhile, President of ACI Ghana, Lawrence Oshelaja-Boampong, said the association is committed to improving ethical standards of financial professionals.
As an association, we are heavy on ethics. We actually have training programs that speak to how our members are supposed to conduct themselves on the market. And so it's one thing that obviously we are going to work and really hard on, and we're also going to partner with the Bank of Ghana to roll out some sort of trainings, do some sort of sensitizations, and of course, if there needs to be some sort of refresher programs organized for our members from time to time, we will have to take a look at that.
The maiden ACI Ghana Financial Market Conference was organized by ACI Ghana, the leading national association of financial market professionals, to ensure the development of Ghana's financial markets through education, ethics and innovation.
Government has been urged to take a bold initiative in using the country's oil and gas resources on sectors of the economy that can visibly impact on the national population. The call follows recommendations by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee for Revenues from the Resources to benefit all citizens. Speaking to Joy Business after an inspection tour of some oil revenue-funded project site in the Shai Osudoku district, coordinator for the PIAC, Isaac Jamina, stressed the need for oil resources to be reserved for nationalistic projects.
The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, took the team of journalists to 3 sites in the district. The projects include a 3-unit classroom block in Dodua, a market square with mechanized borehole, and a community debtor ground in Isushare. After an assessment of the facilities, concerns were raised about the maintenance culture, as some appear to be deteriorating. Chairperson for the committee, Professor Elizabeth Adefio-Shandorf, spoke to Joy Business.
We have come, we have inspected, and we have seen and witnessed what is here. So PIAC will write its report accordingly.
But are you satisfied with what is here?
We have seen the structures, it's well built, but the finishing it's not really up to standard. If you go around, you'll see that the pavements are already peeling off, as well as the paintings, even though the building is not more than 2 years old.
Commenting on the team's assessment of the facilities, coordinator of PIAC, Isaac Domna, reiterated the call by stakeholders and the Committee for Government to establish a long-term national project that can provide economic benefits for all.
We come back to the point PIAC has been making, that petroleum revenue should be used for projects that, for lack of a better expression, are national legacy projects that will stand the test of time. It's not the only revenue source for government. So government's other revenue sources can be used for projects of this kind that are community-based. The amount involved is not so big and things like that. But for a finite resource, the revenue in it should be used for projects that can stand the test of time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I mean, it is a better testament of a more prudent use of the revenue than for this paltry allocation and small projects of this kind. And that is not to take anything away from the usefulness of the project or the fact that it's serving the community. Far from that.
The inspection is part of PIAC's mandate to ascertain whether revenue from oil and gas resources are used for their intended purposes.
Now, moving on, the board chairman of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Govt, has assured of forming a social partnership with the public to ensure that tax revenues are used for the right purposes. According to him, this can be more successful when the country's tax ratio increases and everyone becomes responsible to the development of the state. Govt made the remarks in an interview with journalists when the GRA board paid a courtesy call on the national chief imam at his residence in Accra.
Time of them and us should pass. That we are government. Whether you are in government or you are not in government, you are part of government. And therefore, if you come to that realization, then and you pay your taxes, then you can also demand accountability. And you can also realize that, listen, if I want a road being done, I must also pay my tax. So when I contribute my widow's mite, then I can insist that the right thing be done. So as we point a finger at the people in authority, the rest of our fingers are pointing at us. What is our responsibility as Ghanaians? We must have some responsibility. And so what we are doing is that we invited the National Chief Imam, who is an icon in our society, not just as a religious figure, as a man of peace, as an intellectual, as a man of social responsibility, a man of social influencer, an influencer, one of the greatest influencers in our country, to become our partner, and so that he can also sell the story, not just to his community, but also sell the story at large, that Ghanaians must pay their tax and Ghanaians must be partners in development.
That's all time will allow us today here on Business Live. My name is Winston Taki. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye-bye.